Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we are going to be doing tier list review. There has been a nice amount of changes on the tier list, so I did want to give my thoughts today. And of course, I'd love to know all of your thoughts as well. And before we get into today's video, I would love to know if you guys ended up pulling for Herta or if you actually plan to skip her for someone else. And lastly, if you enjoy videos like these, make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. We're going to be checking out the updated tier list for Star Rail now that 3.0 is out. I did want to give my opinions just on where Pridewin has placed characters. And also, there was a huge change to the tier list. As you guys can see, they changed the specialist category to a support DPS category instead, and now the break DPSs that were typically like in the specialist category, they are now just in the DPS category with all the other DPS characters we have. So real quick, just for clarification on the support DPS, here we can see that the rating is heavily influenced based on the damage they provide, the buffs and debuffs or efficiency boosts these characters create, or just the utility they provide against certain encounters. So now that we've gone over that, I do actually really like this support DPS category they have added, since I do think it gives a bit more clarification as to where they believe these characters should be. For example, as we can see, Topaz is in tier 0, which Topaz is a very nice option when it comes to follow-up centric teams, due to her being able to inflict proof of debt onto an enemy, which now will increase the follow-up damage dealt to that enemy, so this can greatly assist with Fei Xiao dealing more damage. This can assist with, where is he, Dr. Ratio dealing more damage, and so on. And she just is a very nice secondary DPS for those types of teams. And then 0.5, we have Jade, Haunt March 7th, and Mosa, which Jade I'm actually very happy about, especially with the release now of Big Herta. Jade is being seen a bit more often now, which is great to see, which I'll discuss Jade here in a bit. Let's actually discuss Big Herta. So in my personal opinion, if we are considering an E0 S0 Herta, I do believe her placement is pretty good for tier 0. In Memory of Chaos, she is able to get very nice clears with using a premium team or a more budget-friendly team. And what I mean by this is that Big Herta can be used alongside a lot of budget-friendly characters. She could be nicely used alongside Serval, she can nicely be used alongside Little Herta, which both of these characters are completely free-to-play characters. And then we also have Remembrance Trailblazer, which I'll discuss them as well, as they are a new addition to the tier list. But Remembrance Trailblazer is a great option to use alongside Big Herta as well, especially if you don't have that many supportive characters on your account. For example, even for newer players who, let's say you are really interested in pulling Herta, you don't have many characters on your account, honestly that is perfectly fine, as you can use Serval or Little Herta alongside Big Herta here. In the case of Serval, you can use Serval with the Passkey Lycone, which is a 3-star Lycone. And you can also use her, for example, with like an energy regen rope, and this will allow her to be able to get her ultimate very frequently. Depending on the amount of enemies on the field, you can actually potentially get a 1-turn ultimate. And as a result, Serval is going to be attacking very frequently, which now results in Serval assisting with inflicting interpretation stacks onto enemies. So overall, Serval is a very nice free-to-play option to use alongside Big Herta here. You can, of course, also use Little Herta. Little Herta is going to be able to help contribute with, of course, her follow-ups. This will allow her to stack more interpretation onto enemies. And depending on how frequently she can follow up, this can result in quite a lot of stacks being inflicted. But overall, Little Herta or Serval, as I said, are just very nice budget-friendly options, and Big Herta here will of course still be able to take advantage of that, as in my opinion, Big Herta does have some similarities to Acheron. And what I mean by this is, in the case of Acheron, she benefits from having nihility characters on the team, which allows the characters on your team to assist with Acheron using her ultimate more frequently. And of course, she is able to take advantage of nihility characters being on the team to boost her damage output. There is a similar case when it comes to Big Herta. In Big Herta's case, she only wants one other Erudition character on the team, so this can end up being Serval, it could end up being Little Herta, it could be Jade, and so on. And essentially what ends up happening when you have another Erudition character alongside Big Herta, her damage multiplier for her enhanced skill will further increase based on, of course, the interpretation stacks that are inflicted onto enemies. And Erudition characters can also assist with stacking interpretation faster onto enemies. And on top of that, an additional benefit is that Herta will also be able to increase the entire team's crit damage by 80% just by having an additional Erudition character on the team. So what this now allows is that Herta will of course be able to now increase her own crit damage even further, which allows you to focus a bit more on her crit rate stats to ensure that she's critting as often as possible. But now the secondary Erudition character on your team can also nicely take advantage of this to be able to deal more damage themselves. And when it comes to, of course, Herta's damage output, she is able to dish out a lot of damage, even if you are using, of course, her signature light cone or even a more free-to-play centric light cone. I have showed off her using the seriousness of breakfast on my channel, and she still is able to perform very nicely, deal a bunch of damage onto enemies. And when it comes to Herta's general game plan, you will want to get as close as possible to the cap of interpretation stacks onto an enemy so that her enhanced skill will be able to deal as much damage as possible, which the cap is 42 stacks. And once you use Herta's ultimate, what's really cool about Herta is that she'll also be able to advance herself forward by 100% after using her ultimate. So this will allow her to immediately use an enhanced skill and basically do a wombo combo, if you will, with the ultimate's damage. And then on top of that, now you also have the enhanced skill directly afterwards. So this allows Big Herta now to just deal a bunch of damage whenever she uses her ultimate plus her enhanced skill. There is one benefit I have to note regarding her signature light cone. That is something you have to keep in mind when you are playing her if she doesn't have her signature light cone, which is her signature light cone will provide her an additional skill point whenever she uses her ultimate, which now will guarantee that you can use her enhanced skill directly after using her ultimate. Otherwise, if you don't have the available skill points and you don't have her signature light cone, you won't be able to use her enhanced skill right after her ultimate if you are out of skill points. So that is something to keep in mind when you are playing Herta. And there is a note here that says she is a bit SP unfriendly. So what you would have to keep in mind of is making sure that after she uses her ultimate, if you don't have her signature light cone, you want to make sure that she is able to take advantage of her enhanced skill. And some ways to be able to do this, which I have discussed this in one of my prior videos, is you can either account for that with some of your characters on the team being able to regenerate skill points. So if you have a more skill point friendly sustain, they can end up helping out with this, or even the secondary Erudition character on the team. If they are able to take advantage of their basic attacks, this will help out as well. And even in the case of Herta, let's say you're really close to being able to get her ultimate and a basic attack would give you enough energy. Honestly, I would just use the basic attack and then use her ultimate and then use her enhanced skill, just to guarantee that you are able to take advantage of the enhanced skill, as her enhanced skill will deal far more damage than just an ordinary skill would. So there is definitely ways to get around not having her signature light cone. You would just have to keep in mind of your skill point management a bit more when playing her. Another thing regarding Herta, though, I thought I'd mention is that she does have a pretty massive energy cost of 220. Now, what's really nice is that she does have a trace that allows her to gain back energy whenever allies attack enemies, and it'll be 3 fixed energy per enemy attack. So if you do have AoE attackers on your team, let's say you have Jade or Lingsha or whoever it may be that is able to attack frequently as well as have AoE attacks within their kit, this will nicely assist with giving Big Herta here more and more energy. So you can also use other characters on the team that assist with giving her back energy even further. For example, Sunday, just because of the energy he'll be able to provide her alongside, of course, the crit rate, the crit damage, and so on. So Sunday is really nice when it comes to being able to give even more energy to Big Herta here, and also Huohuo. Huohuo is a really nice sustain option on Big Herta teams due to the fact that she'll be able to grant the entire team more energy. And if you do decide to use Sunday and Huohuo alongside Herta here, Huohuo will be able to give more energy to Sunday as well as Herta, and this additional energy for Sunday can now result in Sunday getting his ultimate sooner, which now results in him using his ultimate on Herta, and this now results in Herta getting her ultimate sooner. So it just ends up being an energy party, if you will, with these two characters on the team. But I will say Herta definitely has a lot of team variety you can use with her. I already mentioned some of the budget-friendly Erudition characters, but even when it comes to the supports, you can use Robin, you can use Sunday, you can use Remembrance Trailblazer, I've actually showcased Ruan-Mei alongside Big Herta. You can use Ruan-Mei, you can use Pela, you can consider using Ting-Yun, and so on. There are plenty of options you can use alongside Big Herta. And then when it comes to the sustains, you can use Lingsha, Aventurine, Gallagher, Huohuo, and so on. So overall, I'd say she's definitely worthy of this tier 0 placement. And now if we were to move on to the other characters, so I noticed that Firefly and Phase Shower are also in tier 0, at least in the Memory of Chaos tier list here. So when it comes to Memory of Chaos, and I have mentioned this in my previous video, but I would love to know all of your thoughts on this. So when it comes to the placement of Boothill and Rappa, and then when it comes to Firefly being in tier 0, and then Boothill and Rappa being 0.5, honestly, there can definitely be arguments for Rappa or Boothill to be in tier 0 as well. I've even seen some argue for Firefly to potentially go down to tier 0.5, and then Rappa and Boothill maybe go up, or at least one of these two end up going up. I would just love to know your thoughts on this, because I do feel like we are at the point where there definitely can be arguments for Boothill and Rappa to honestly potentially be up here in tier 0. We got Fugue, which Fugue benefits both Boothill and Rappa very nicely. In the case of Boothill, he'll be able to take advantage of the Exo Toughness to, of course, now break enemies more frequently, but this now results in Boothill being able to potentially get his pocket trick shot stacks faster. In the case of Rappa, this allows her to get more stacks for her talent, which is very beneficial for her. And of course, when elite enemies are broken, Rappa will also be able to gain a bit more energy back. Now you are going to be able to break elites twice, so this will result in a nice amount of energy overall. So I would say there's definitely arguments for these two characters to potentially go up. And for the rest of the tier list for the DPS section, if we were to look through it real quick, now of course we see Kafka here is now in the DPS section. She's alongside Jingliu. For tier 2, I do feel like this placement is a little odd, I suppose. I don't personally know if I could say that Jingliu and Blade should be in the same tier. Now, I would also love to know what you guys think about this one in particular, because I did argue that I think Jingliu maybe could be just a 0.5 tier above Blade, especially now that we do have a bit more ice weakness in this current MOC, and we're likely going to have ice weakness for a good amount of time due to the fact that Herta did release. So I would just love to know what you guys think about these two in particular, if you feel like Jingliu should be a little higher, or if you feel like both of them should be in tier 2. And I also think Xueyi should actually go up as well. In the case of Xueyi, she can definitely take nice advantage of Fugue, so I am very surprised that they didn't bump up Xueyi at all, due to Fugue allowing for the Exo Toughness to be inflicted onto enemies. And Xueyi can nicely take advantage of this to gain more karma stacks within battle, which now results in her being able to unleash her follow-up attacks a bit more frequently. And now if we look at the support DPS, I already mentioned my thoughts on Topaz. I think this is fine. I do think it's great that Jade actually went up, because if I'm not mistaken, before when they had the specialist category instead of support DPS, and then of course they had all the break characters in this section next to DPS, Jade was, I believe, in the niche character category, if I'm not mistaken, but now she is in the Apex character category. I do think this is a good placement, especially now that Big Herta has released. Jade can be nicely used alongside Big Herta, as Big Herta, of course, wants a secondary Erudition character. I have shown this off a couple times on my channel, but Jade can be nicely paired alongside Lingsha, for example, and using Lingsha as a deck collector. Due to how frequently Lingsha can attack, this can now result in Jade being able to attack more frequently, and as a result, this gives more and more energy for Big Herta, which means she can use her ultimate a bit sooner, and this now results in, of course, the wombo combo I mentioned earlier of the ultimate plus the skill. But I do think it's great to see that Jade has gone up. I do think her value over time has gone up as well, just when it comes to using her alongside either follow-up attackers, now in the case of Big Herta, who takes advantage of Erudition characters alongside her. Now, when it comes to Boba March, I think this placement is fine. She's a very nice option when it comes to being a secondary DPS on a team, as she is able to provide her Shifu very nice buffs, but she also can be used as a main damage dealer. I have showed this off a couple times on my channel, so I do think when it comes to just Boba March in general, her versatility is very nice, especially for a free-to-play 4-star option. So I'll always recommend to consider building Boba March just because of how much she can provide. You can make her have a crit build, a break build, and so on. For Mosa, he's really nice when it comes to follow-up teams, so I think this placement's fine. When it comes to Black Swan, I think Black Swan is still a pretty nice option when it comes to if you were to play a damage over time team, or even just using her debuffing capabilities since Black Swan is able to debuff enemy defenses. So she could be nicely utilized overall. But I would like to see a new damage over time character because we have not gotten one in so freaking long. I'm just waiting for them to release the next one so we can end up seeing what they decide to do with the playstyle. Since we just have not been getting anything for the damage over time playstyle, which kind of sucks. So I'm really just waiting for the next character to come out so we can see how that potentially affects Kafka, how that affects Black Swan, and so on. Now, for the Amplifier section, I'll just share a couple of thoughts on that. I personally feel like Sunday can definitely be in tier 0. And I think when Aglaea releases, he'll more than likely honestly go up to tier 0. When it comes to his buffing capabilities, they're absolutely incredible just because of how much energy he'll be able to provide an ally, being able to 100% advance them forward, being able to provide them 20% crit rate, a bunch of crit damage, increase the damage that they deal, and so on. And him also being able to advance forward a character as well as their summon. So in the case of Aglaea, he will be able to advance her forward, but also her memo sprite, which is the garment maker. And this will apply, of course, for future Remembrance characters as well. I do feel like Sunday is a very nice option just when it comes to the summon meta that we will be able to mess around with very soon. Once Aglaea releases, we'll get a better idea of it. And also, of course, once again, his utility when it comes to just the energy, the crit rate, crit damage, and so on is very nice for our current roster. He pairs very nicely, as I mentioned, with Big Herta. So overall, I do feel like he can definitely be a tier 0 character. And since he is 0.5 now, I do think once Aglaea comes out, he will go up to tier 0. Now for the Amplifier section, the only other character I really wanted to talk about is Remembrance Trailblazer. So what I found really weird is that this is an E0 Remembrance Trailblazer, which if I'm not mistaken, I believe we can actually get all the Eidolons already. So I was a bit surprised they didn't do E6 Trailblazer, but I do think Remembrance Trailblazer can potentially honestly be in 0.5 just because of what they are able to provide for an ally. And what I'm referring to is primarily when Mem is fully charged. When Mem is fully charged, they'll be able to advance forward an ally and also provide them Mem support, which will now allow that ally to deal true damage onto enemies. And this is a great way to just be able to deal a nice amount of additional damage onto enemies that you are facing. And Remembrance Trailblazer is also able to provide a nice amount of crit damage as well, on top of the other buffs they may provide through their Eidolons. So I do think Remembrance Trailblazer can honestly be a potential 0.5 character. I do think they provide quite a lot of value, a very nice free-to-play option that we just got. I will definitely be experimenting a bit more with them and probably showing them off a bit more since I've been mainly doing Herta showcases as of lately. So I do want to test out some more Remembrance Trailblazer teams and show them alongside some characters. But I do think this new Trailblazer is a very nice option once again for free-to-play players and even players who do spend because of how powerful true damage can be. Aventurine and Lingsha in tier 0 I think is good. Lingsha is very nice for her AoE attacking frequency, especially now with Big Herta being released. We have seen, of course, Lingsha is a very nice pair with her for being able to assist with gaining back energy for Big Herta. And Lingsha overall has pretty nice versatility as you can use her alongside follow-up attackers. I have showed her alongside Fei Xiao, since Lingsha does of course have a follow-up in her kit, which is Fuyuan. And Fuyuan can assist with, of course, getting Flying Aureus stacks for Fei Xiao, but also advancing forward a character like Numby, for instance. Lingsha can also be a pretty nice Shifu for Hot March 7th, as Lingsha's attacking frequency can assist with March getting more stacks to be able to unleash her enhanced basic attack. When it comes to Gallagher, he's still an amazing budget-friendly option. Huohuo is very, very nice for the energy she'll be able to provide, the attack buff she gives for the team. Then, of course, also her cleansing capabilities are really good and will also be a very nice pair with Aglaea as well. And overall, here is the rest of the tier list. I think I do agree with a decent amount of these placements. Some placements I'm a little iffy on, and I think that's mainly every time we review the tier list. I do have some placements where I'm like, maybe this can be switched around. But yeah, that'll be it for my thoughts. I would love to know all of your thoughts. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just felt like yapping for a bit here on my thoughts on these characters. I'm really curious, where do you guys think Aglaea will be placed? If I had to take a prediction, it'll more than likely be in the Apex category. Either tier 0 or 0.5. I think either one of these categories is more than likely where Aglaea will be placed. But that'll be it for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. And if you did, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Peace.